Moved on to Natrium Sulph now, the final salt I'm doing in the series, a single video here. So this one is what they consider the liver decongestant and eliminates excess water, sodium sulphate. A lot of people come into clinic with weight problems, and probably this is one of the go-to salts for that problem, because a lot of weight problems are actually more to do with water metabolism, and a lot of people have a lousy diet and they flog themselves with a lot of alcohol and GMO foods, a lot of processed foods, things like this, which the body has a hard time metabolizing. So the liver is doing a pretty heavy job. It's got a big job to do, and this salt, when understood properly, people will understand why they gain weight and they take on weight. And a lot of people, when they're deficient in this salt, it doesn't matter how many diets they go on, they're still going to accumulate weight. And there's a number of different reasons for this. A lot of people have cooked thyroids, which Taurus actually rules the thyroid function, and there's a number of reasons for that. And a lot of the reasons excess water will come into the body, probably from a Chinese medical point of view, would be there's a few reasons, but probably number one would be the kidney yang deficiency. So a lot of people with thyroid problems tend to have that. They don't have the excess heat in the body to metabolize the water really well. But this kind of salt has a lot to do with the Taurian type, so to speak, cannot really handle humid and tropical climates, as they tend to get a lot more excess water in the body. They can get puffy, they can get swelling, and just not able to eliminate it. And so the lymphatic system can slowly be engorged with excess fluid, particularly for the Taurian type, or people who have a lot of planets in Taurus. I've noticed, particularly South Node, or even the Moon in conjunction with the South Node in Taurus. They can be kind of phlegmy, damp types, people, and this salt is really indicated for damp heat and fevers, which is actually an interesting one, because fevers and so-called chills and fevers. Well, at this level, this salt from a Chinese medicine point of view will enter the Xiao-Yang meridian, which is traditionally ruled by liver gallbladder energies. So these are the kind of fevers we get that alternate chills and fevers. So this salt is heavily indicated for malaria. So if you've got a sufficient amount of this salt within the body and the blood chemistry, you won't get malaria, so to speak. But George W. Carey would talk a lot about the chills, because he didn't really believe in germ theory, and rightly so. If anyone who's done their homework will understand why. But so I just remember specifically reading his book that he said something like, the mainstream medicine doesn't have a definition of what a chill is. So I'm going to read out what he says, because this is important. He said, "There's not a medical authority in existence who has given us a true definition of this phenomena. Their so-called explanations are meaningless and glittering with generalizations." So he goes on to say, "I explain a chill as follows. When blood becomes overcharged with water. Now, as the water carriers are not present in sufficient quantities to throw out the excess in the natural pathway, nature does the next best thing, causing a spasm in the vascular, nervous, and muscular systems, and thus, by vigilant effort, throws out excess water, hence profuse perspiration, which follows by the chill. So when the body becomes waterlogged and saturated then it needs to eliminate the water. Otherwise, you're just never going to be able to clear any pathogenic factor in the body. It doesn't matter how many drugs you take, it's still going to pollute the environment. That being antibiotics or whatever it is they give you. I mean, really, there's no understanding, still in my opinion, from a Western medical mainstream point of view of what actually a cold is and how to deal with it. So it has a lot to do with many, many factors. But this salt is the water eliminator, the water congester. So he would say that the reason we can get potentially sick is because the body or the blood is holding too much water in it, and therefore it needs to clear it. And this is in Chinese medicine, particularly in conjunction with this salt, has a lot to do with damp heat. And damp heat is going to make the body heavy, lethargic, and tired. From the face diagnosis, you're going to end up swollen, sacs under the eyes, puffy. There can be yellowing on the skin. Worst case, with deep Nat Sulph deficiencies and liver problems in general, you'll see a greenish tinge around the face. Now, so the organ of affinities with this and tissue affinities with this salt, the liver, gallbladder, the pancreas, the large intestine. But the liver, gallbladder particularly, there's a number of reasons for chills. And this salt I actually use when people, in the exact same way, when people have had the inability to recover from a cold or a so-called virus they've had, right? Most of the time from incorrect medical prescription, which usually makes the pathogenic factor dormant, lingering, and it doesn't have the ability to escape through the exterior. So this salt, particularly for alternating chills and fevers, really means that things are caught at the liver gallbladder level, and they don't have this. They call it a pivoting level in Chinese medicine. So the pathogen's trapped. So it doesn't have the exact amount. It doesn't have enough energy to push something out. So what happens is it's caught. It tries to push it out, then it swings back within the body. It's trying to put. So you get hot, then you get cold. You get hot, and you can get cold. It's the alternating chills that come in with this, and this is a very interesting thing to observe. And I think one of the real strengths of Chinese medicine to be able to observe this, but also in George W. Carey saying the same language with this. And I love the way he talked about the artery meaning the air carrier. So that's very interesting. He understood that air and qi connects with the blood, and they go hand in hand, the qi and blood combination. So further on with this, so the general indications, right, for this salt, it's ruled by Venus, right? So a lot of people who have excess, like, they love indulging in food. I mean, you could, for the homeopaths who, know that it's probably one of the salts connected, I'd say, on the same line, but not exactly the same as, say, Nux vomica. You've overeaten, you've indulged, you can dose up on this and it'll get the liver functioning very happily. Now, excuse me, from a Chinese point of view, and speaking of that, Nat Sulph, that was just a plumstone throat. The phlegm that gets caught around the throat, a lot of people are constantly clearing the throat. This salt is very, very good for. That's what they call plumstone throat in Chinese medicine. It can be also very good for liver qi stagnation, liver stuck, not moving from pent-up repressed emotion. I would say there's a connection in Chinese medicine with wind water, facial puffiness, which is a liver lung problem. And you probably, and when you understand these salts, it's very good to combine like this. One of the go-to other salts to combine this with will be obviously Nat Mur, because that has a function with water metabolism as well. Now, what I was also going to say is the indications will be things like flatulence, swollen hands and feet, conjunctivitis, pains at the back of the head extending into the spine. There is jaundice, malaria, vomiting of bile, spinal meningitis, lightning pain through the ears. I just picked up on this actually. I had a patient with some weird excess, extremely bad ear pain, and I didn't think of this salt, so I didn't get a chance to use it on him. But it can also be used for conjunctivitis. And another thing which is interesting to note on a psych level, this is people have the tendency to suicide with wildness and irritability from excess bile and too much fluid, which is of an acidic nature in the cells. This is directly out of George W. Carey's book. This is that in summary is a lot to do with phlegm, and there's a specific formula for that kind of suicidal type thinking within Chinese medicine point of view. But phlegm can mist the mind, make someone very incoherent and think really take you to the shadow of the psyche if you don't have the tools and the understanding of the body and how to process emotion to be able to rid yourself of some of these darker aspects within one's psyche. But it can also be indicated for vertex headache. Another one, gout, because gout's all to do with excesses. You know, anything venous, right, is a lot to do with indulgence. Drowsiness, anxious dreams, nightmares, diabetes. And here's an interesting one. Metallic taste in the mouth. Everyone experiences this from, having antibiotics and things like this. It's one of the common things when people have had a lot of medicine for a cold or something like this. Also, excuse me. Also, we have the symptoms that are worse when we wake up in the morning. We feel hungover, body feels heavy. Oh my God, I can't get up. And also the weather conditions, the weather patterns are important to understand with this salt. When the body feels really, really worse around damp weather, rainy, humidity, you just feel tired. It can even be achy. This kind of thing. On the psych level, self-loathing can be one of the things. Lack of motivation as the liver's just flogged. Fear of sickness. People who fear getting sick. And like I said before, suicidal feelings. Now, many things we can talk about with this salt, but this is just a few basic indications, and one that's highly used clinically because a lot of people tend to have in the West indulge in alcohol, and alcohol actually with the brandy nose or the really deep red dark nose, this salt's indicated for as well. I've actually seen other practitioners use this salt very effectively for treating acne as well. So really clearing up the excess bile from the body, things like this. And now, and I think just because I'm finishing this series, there's one important thing George W. Carey said, which is important to keep in mind when using these salts. When he said, we should take the tissue salts as one uses health foods, not simply to change not health to health, but to keep the rate of blood vibration in tone of health all the time. So when we are actually really taking these things, and I think I've mentioned this before in some of the other series I've done, these salts are actually holding the body at a certain frequency. This is very important to understand. They help you assist the kind of nutrition we take from the foods and convert this into the chi, which circulates in the air carriers, the arterial functions of the body. So amazing, these salts, and I'm probably going to do further ones down the track, going to talk a little bit more into, there's so many other things I want to talk about. I think I might just do some series more on the esoteric chemistry. These ones, I plan to do 2 parts in a lot of them, but I just found that I think most of these kind of things I wanted to keep on this level, because it's a lot easier for people to apply this stuff and understand it themselves and apply to their children as well, because understanding these 12 salts is key for looking after yourselves and cultivating our health as best we can, because this is going to be really important in the days to come. And hopefully I'll be doing some more talks around Wilhelm Reich's and orgone boxes, orgone theories, orgone blankets. I'm going to team up with another friend of mine to make these devices, which I think people should really have. It's exceptional, this kind of stuff. But I will continue on, and I'll pick out certain subjects. If anyone wants me to talk about something specific, just write in the comments. I'm happy to have ideas of other things to talk about. And thank you again for listening.